My name's Duncan Birmingham. My speciality is teaching pop-up design, and this is the first in a series of tutorials showing you how to make highly complex pop-ups a very easy way. So I'm going to start by just running through the materials. The basic materials that you need are glue, scissors and card. The type of card I recommend is 160 GSM. You can use heavier card, 180 GSM up to 220. You can also use heavy duty cartridge paper. Really it all depends on the size of the pop-up that you're making. But for these tutorials we'll be using photocopy card, which is 160 GSM. The best glue is solvent-based adhesive. Water-based works okay, but it tends to make the card buckle and it goes off more slowly, so it's much harder to work with. Stick glues are okay, they're nice and clean and easy to use, but they tend to crack, and so after a while, yeah, your pop-ups will fall apart. The other materials that you won't need in these first tutorials, but in the later ones, which are more complex, you need a craft knife. The type I really like is this type with an extendable snap-off blade. You'll need a ruler. A metal ruler is good. You can cut long straight lines against the edge. A compass for drawing circles with, and again there's only a few mechanisms that you need this for, but it's just a handy tool to have in your toolbox. You can also use it for measuring with measuring lengths, transferring lengths from one model to another. A protractor and set square for measuring angles, and a ballpoint pen without any ink. So scoring on big pop-ups, scoring can be really important. To get a nice clean fold, you score it. A ballpoint pen with no ink, it just compresses the fibres in the card rather than cutting them. So yeah, I really recommend ballpoint pen without any ink. And of course, yeah, pencil and rubber, you know, just always handy. So that's materials. Now I'd like to start with the most elementary of pop-ups. The most elementary pop-ups, we're just going to use a small piece of card like this, fold it in the middle. All these early tutorials, there's absolutely no measuring. Everything is just done by eye. So you can just cut a small piece of card by eye, fold it in half. Folds are really important in pop-up. The more you fold it, the more sweetly it'll move. I always think of folds as like, they're like hinges, and creasing the fold thoroughly is like greasing the hinge. So you take this piece of card, we cut into it, just one cut from the folded edge, and then just bend that over. So we're bending that over like this. So it looks like that. Fold it back on itself. Open it up and push that through. This is the most elementary pop-up. This type is converging creases. So all four creases, the spine fold, the fold in the middle and the two on each side all converge at the same point. The other type of pop-up is parallel creases. So we take another card, we'll fold it in half, fold it thoroughly as usual. This time make two cuts. Again, this is the folded edge. I'm cutting in from the folded edge. You don't even actually need to use scissors. You can actually tear it. The lines don't have to be straight. They can be wiggly, jagged, at an angle, whatever you like. Again, fold it back. So you get this shape. Fold it back on itself to enhance the creases. Open it up, push it through so you get a kind of step. So these two pieces demonstrate the basic underlying principles of all pop-ups. All pop-ups, either all the creases meet at the same points, they're converging creases meeting at the same point on the spine. The other type are parallel creases, so all the creases are parallel to the spine. And these are the two underlying principles in all pop-ups. So this type of pop-up mechanism is called counterfolds. And here's an example that I did with some school kids. And so this is counterfolds. It's this type with converging creases. and it's made into a face, and it's just glued onto a background. So this is really basic, simple stuff. There is a book with some in it. This is Dinner Time by Jan Pienkowski. Look at the first spread, and it's one of these V-fold converging creases pop-ups. We can also look at the last spread in this book, and here it is. This bottom jaw of the shark is converging creases. This is the V-fold, and the top jaw of the shark is a parallel fold. You can always tell parallel folds. If you look at the book end on, you can look down the spine and you can see that all the creases are parallel. This type of mechanism can be applied to any fold in any pop-up. And so you can use this type of mechanism as actual part of the sculpting of the sculpture, or it can be used as just the muscle to raise a larger piece of card. So if we look at this book, and this is Jungle Days by Helen Balmer, and this is an example of a counterfold being used to sculpt the actual pop-up. So this is the counterfold. As the book closes, as it opens, you can see how it moves, and yet this is all made from one flat piece of card. You can actually close the book and just open and close it like that. So this is the counterfold being used as part of the sculpture of the design. This book, this is Robot by Jan Pienkowski. In this pop-up spread, these counterfolds, he's used these type of converging crease counterfolds. These are the muscle to move larger pieces. So this is a parallel fold, and then here on each side you've got these small counterfolds that are used as the muscle to lift these two little robots. And so as the page opens and closes, you can see the counterfolds, the muscles are moving those two small robots. Right, this type of pop-up, these elementary pop-ups, when the page is flat, the pop-up is flat. And they're not actually true pop-ups. They're more like something you can add to pop-ups. So I'm going to show you how to make two pop-ups, one converging creases, one parallel creases. There are three important principles that apply to all pop-ups. The first one is that every pop-up must span a gully. So this is the base sheet. We fold it in half, do it by eye, crease it really thoroughly, fold it back on itself, crease it again. This is your base sheet. This is the gully. It's the gully opening that will power the pop-up. I'll take a piece to make the pop-ups with. So again, everything's done by eye. You just cut the piece of card in half. Fold it in half. Crease it really thoroughly. And the second principle is that pop-ups must balance on each side of the gully. So pop-ups must span a gully, they must stick down to both sides of the gully, and then they must balance on each side of the gully. So in this case, we're making a converging crease, a V-fold. So with V-folds, it's the angles that balance. So here's the pop-up piece. We're folding the tabs onto the bottom, which will glue to the page. By doing it this way, we've made the two angles on each side of the pop-up are the same. In this case, they're both 90 degrees. We again reinforce those folds. So we've got the angles on the pop-up are balancing. Now we've got to stick it to the page, and the two angles on the base have got to balance. So we get the glue. My secret with glue is you put the glue on just on one side, and then I always use my little finger. I use my little finger so that I can spread the glue really evenly, but my fingers remain dexterous. I can handle other things and without them getting stuck. It's really important that the glue goes right up to the crease. The crease in pop-up is really important. The glue goes to the crease, all measuring is done to the crease. So here we go. The central crease is lined up with the gully. And stick that side down. Now you fold the whole piece shut, put glue on the other side. Again, smear the glue up to the crease. Shut the base. Press it well, and here's the first pop-up. So in this case, every pop-up spans a gully, and then the second principle is every pop-up must balance on each side of the gully. With V-folds, where the creases all converge at the same point, it's the angles that balance. So the angles on the base here are both the same size, the angles on the pop-up are both the same size. So if we call this A, and this B, we've got A plus B on one side, we've got A plus B on the other side, so the angles balance. This is the basic V-fold. There are 5 configurations of V-fold, so I'm going to show you the other 5. So this is the type we've just made. This is the right angle V-fold. The angles on the pop-up are both 90 degrees. This is the acute angle V-fold. The angles on the pop-up, they're still both the same, but the angles are both less than 90 degrees. This one is the pointy V-fold. This is a variation on this acute angle, but in this case even more extreme. This is the obtuse angle V-fold, so the angles on the pop-up are both more than 90 degrees. They're still the same on each side, and the angles on the base are still the same on each side. So you've got balance, and then this is the final, most intriguing of the V-folds really. This is the asymmetric V-fold. So the angles on each side on the pop-up are different, and the angles on the base are different. You've got 4 different angles, but the angle on the base on one side plus the angle on the pop-up equals the angle on the base on the other side plus the angle on the pop-up. So you still have balance even though all 4 angles are different. Now I'll make a pop-up version of the parallel fold. Take another base, fold it really thoroughly, fold it back on itself, and a couple more times. There we go. And here's a pop-up piece. So this is parallel fold. So in this case, we make the fold at the outer edges. When you make gluing tabs, they should never be less than ½ an inch or 1 centimetre, because pop-ups they generate quite a lot of stress on the tabs. So you need them to be fairly wide to take the stress of opening and closing. So this is going to be the parallel fold, and you can actually play around with these. You can have it really wide on the page, or you can have it pretty close. I tend to actually cut off the corners of the gluing tabs. I just think when they're a bit less sharp, they tend to snag less. It doesn't matter whether they're inside like this or whether they're outside like this. You can, the position of the tab doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the position of the crease. So here it is. By folding it in half and then folding the tabs on, we've got balance on the pop-up piece. The lengths both sides are the same. So again, we've just put glue on one side. Smear it on well, right up to the crease. I'm going to have these tabs on the inside, so we'll stick it down there. The crease is parallel to the central gully. Then fold the whole piece shut. Put glue on the other tab. Smear it up to the edge. And and close the base so it finds its natural sticking position. So this is a parallel fold. This is a symmetric parallel fold. There are three kinds of parallel folds. This is the symmetric equal parallel fold. Both sides are the same. Both lengths on the pop-up are the same, and the distance from where it glues down to the spine is the same. So on the left you've got a short bit on the base and a long bit on the pop-up. On the right you've got a short bit on the base and a long bit on the pop-up. This is the second type of parallel fold. This is the parallelogram. You look at it this way on, and you can see on one side, on the left, you've got a short length on the pop-up and a long length on the base. On the right, you've got a short length on the base and a long length on the pop-up. So again, you've got balance, the length's balance. And the last one, this is the asymmetric parallel fold. So all four lengths are different. So on the left, you've got quite a long bit on the base and a short bit on the pop-up. On the right, you've got a short bit on the base and a long bit on the pop-up. So as the whole thing closes, you can see from the spine fold to the leading fold, the two sides are the same. The pop-up is balanced. On V folds, it's the angles that balance. On parallel folds, it's the lengths that balance. And the third principle is that every pop-up creates gullies. So the first principle, every pop-up must span a gully, and the first gully is the spine fold. The second principle, every pop-up must balance on each side. V folds, it's the angles balance. Parallel folds, it's the lengths that balance. And then the third principle is that every pop-up creates gullies, and you can stick pop-ups into those gullies. So here's a gully on a parallel fold. You could stick this in like this, or you could stick this one in like this. And on the V folds, again, you've got these gullies you can stick it into on the back as the page closes. The pop-up will close. Or you've also got a gully here. You can stick the pop-up into the gully. You can stick it any height you like. And somewhere I've got an example. Here it is. This is a V fold. The blue piece is a V fold, and there's pop-up stuck in. This is a parallel fold stuck into this gully, and this is a converging creases stuck into this gully. All these are different forms of pop-up stuck into the different gullies. Here you've got an example of a counterfold like that, like this piece. This is a big counterfold. Here's the same principle applied to this piece of pop-up. There's three ways you can use the base. The base can either be a base that the pop-up rises from, it can be a background that the pop-up comes forward from, or it can be a base and a background with the pop-up stuck into the gully. So the first one I'd like to show you is, this is Christopher Columbus by Cobasta. It's a pop-up from the 50s. This is using the base as a base with the pop-up rising from it. So here it is. And this is, if you actually look at it from the top, you can see it's based on V folds. Where it's glued to the page, all the creases will converge at the same point. So this is a pop-up using the base as a base with the pop-up rising from it. The second way you can use the base is with the base as a background with the pop-up coming forward from it. This is the little fish who cried shark. So if we open this one up, this is using the base as a background. So you've got the pop-up coming forward from it. And in this case, again, both halves of the design, they're based on V folds. And they look to me like asymmetric V folds. So the angles on the two pop-up, each side of the pop-ups are different. So this is using the pop-up as a background. And the third kind is a It's another Kubasta. Again, it's from the 50s. It's a base and a background. So that's the last thing I want to talk about, really, techniques. And then the last thing I'd like to say is almost all pop-ups use a combination of mechanisms. So I've got a few examples here. This is one I made. This is V-folds, all V-folds, and then this V-fold at the front is raising this, the dog, and the dog is made of a whole series of parallelograms. So this is a combination. This design is a combination of V-folds and parallelograms. And then this is a really early pop-up. This pop-up is from the 30s. This is from a series called the Bucano series. This is number 15. I think there were about 30. The designer was a guy called Louis Giraud. And so here it is. This is a pop-up. Again, you can see the basic pop-up is a V-fold, and the V-fold is raising parallelograms, raising these other images. So if you look at it this way round, you'll see that these other images are parallelograms raised by the V-fold. And then this is a more modern one. This is David Pelham, Applebee's Shapes, and this is the same thing. Here we have it. Applebee's Shapes. It's a V-fold. It's a acute angle V-fold. Again, it's raising parallelograms. So you look at it this way round, and you can see it's parallelograms raised by the V-fold. And there's another one here. This is one of my favourites. This is Chuck Murphy, Black Cat, White Cat. And in this case, you've got this quite extraordinary construction. This is the V-fold. The box is the V-fold. It's actually, this is a parallelogram, the back of the box, but it's this front half of the box is the V-fold, which is raising the whole structure. You look at it this way round, and you can see the ladder and everything else is parallel folds, and it's all raised by the V-fold. The V-fold box raises the whole structure. And then the last one, and this is Fantastic Fairy Tales. I think it's by Ron Vandermeer. And here we have it. In this case, this is a right angle V-fold raising parallelograms. You look at it this way. As the page closes, the parallelograms lift up. You look at it straight on, you can see this is the gully that this parallelogram is built into. This is the gully that the next one's built into. This is the gully that the next one is built into. So that's it for this tutorial. If you want to follow it up, this is my book, Pop-Up Design and Paper Mechanics. Everything we've looked at today is in this book.